Well, good evening, everyone. It is December 4th, and this is the Duxbury Board of Health. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted by remote means in accordance with applicable law. This meeting being recorded and may be viewed at another time by visiting, let's see, we have the localscene.media/Duxbury for information about Duxbury programming and watching replays on Duxbury YouTube. Okay. Our first item on the agenda is 298 Autumn Ave.
I think you're on mute there, Joe.
Sorry. Joe Webby Engineering. This is a septic system upgrade at 298 Autumn Ave. And what we would like to ask is the board give us a 1 foot relief from the high groundwater, seasonal high groundwater to 5 feet as opposed to 6 feet. This is a typical raised ranch. We can't do anything with the plumbing. So the only thing we could do in order to eliminate a pump would be to get the variance.
So this is a bailed system, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And what did you mean by pump? Could you explain that a little bit more?
We would have to have a pump to elevate to get the pipe to collect the plumbing and then pump it up to the leaching field. If we can get that 1 foot variance, we don't need that. We don't need the pump.
Okay, thank you.
And I think, if I recall correctly, it otherwise meets Title V, right? It's just that one variance of the foot.
Yes.
Are you proposing any fill on site? It looks like the existing contours are on here. Is that right?
Yeah. This will be elevated about 1 foot.
So you're raising the grade up from.
It'll be about 1 foot. It'll be pretty close to the ground level right now, but it'll be 1 foot up by the time we put topsoil on top.
I guess that'd be my only question is how the proposed contours would look if you're coming up, 99.5 going up to 100. Would the proposed drainage be kind of in the general flow of the existing, kind of off to the northwest? Want to make sure that, raising 1 foot or 1.5 feet here and there isn't going to pitch drainage, to a new location, the east. That may affect the neighbors. I'm not sure what's over there, but.
Well, if you'd like us to ask for an additional foot at the Title V level, that would help a lot. with the grades. If we could also get a waiver from the 5 to the 4. And that would still meet Title V.
Yeah, I mean, the variance isn't my concern. I guess it's just the direction of runoff is my only concern. It looks like a pretty flat lot.
So in other words, if we were to go to 4 feet difference, we could avoid that changing,
Okay.
potentially changing runoff. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, it would be at the level ground right now.
So Mike, would you advise that this be redone as you suggest?
I mean, I just wouldn't, I think we typically would see just proposed contours on the plan for if you're gonna be proposing a change in grade. So that's my only thing. I mean, if you want to sketch on the proposed contours, or maybe have it on a layer on a different plan you could share, maybe.
It looks like the site is on, to the west, north, and east is surrounded by wooded areas. Sorry, didn't mean to.
Mr. Webby, what's on either side of the lot?
There's nothing in the back to the north, but there is a dwelling. It's quite a ways away, a couple 100 feet on the east side.
So would we have you come back with what you advise, Mike, to be done to this plan and review it at that time?
I mean, I would think that in general, the Board of Health should have a plan with the proposed contours on it,
Okay.
in order to accept it. I mean, whether we grant the variance pending a proposed contour plan that could be approved by, Tracy, I guess that's a judgment call, but I think, yeah, just to ensure that there's no major changes in drainage patterns.
Lauren, would that be something you'd be able to do, or what is your thought about coming back next month?
We could do either. Um, if you would like them to resubmit contingent on that, adding the contours, I feel Tracy would be fine with that.
Okay.
But ultimately that's up to the board.
Okay.
We won't meet again until middle of January, I think, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true too.
It's going to be kind of tough with the house is already up for sale. It's already has a buyer. So if there's any way that you could grant the waiver subject to, that would be something that would be the best for the owners, because then they could sell the house and build a system as opposed to waiting for another month.
Lauren, is that something you typically would see on a plan that doesn't require a variance, that doesn't have to come in front of the board as post contours, or my?
Typically, yes. We would see those. Yeah, I think that's appropriate to ask for that, especially with this scenario with the variance, so.
Are we all comfortable with that?
I just sort of lost track of what we're proposing. So we're saying that we're approving it contingent upon us receiving the contour, a new plan with the contour, and then once that,
Yes.
then it'll get approved. We don't have to wait till January. Is that what we're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. But
Okay. Any other comments about this? Okay. I make a motion to grant a variance to Duxbury Supplementary Rules and Regulations 1.11B, allowing the proposed soil absorption system to be constructed 5 feet above maximum high groundwater versus the 6 feet in soils with a perk rate of less than 2 minutes per inch. Do I have a second?
second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Let the record note that everyone voted in the affirmative. Comments and findings. This will be subject to the contour plan being resubmitted to Tracy Mayo and Lauren Heesch. Additionally, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, Freeman did make a comment. There would not be any change in grading if the additional waiver were given, which I know, Mr. Webby mentioned too, so I don't know if the board would rather do that or if you'd rather have the plan. I just wanted to know. That same waiver is on another plan that we have. The 400 Church Street plan is asking for a variance from 5 feet to 4 above groundwater. The Title 5.
Okay. So I think, what are you asking me to change?
I just wanted to let you know that option. If you'd rather approve tonight and add the additional variance, that's an option. It wouldn't change the grading, is what Freeman was saying.
Yeah, I
So
think
we have-
either way, you'd have to end up changing the plan, right,
Okay,
in order to reflect that. So
true. You would have to
I
add the
guess it's
additional
just,
variance, so.
yeah, it's up to,
Sorry, I just wanted you to know all of the options before.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
So subject to the contour plan being resubmitted to Tracy Mayo. And other comments would be, this is an existing 3-bedroom dwelling with no proposed increase in flow. The property is not located in a zone 2, and the system is not designed for a garbage grinder. And this existing system failed the inspection criteria for transfer of property.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Great. Moving on to 141 Bolus Road.
Good evening, Freeman Boynton from Duxbury Construction. This property is currently under agreement for sale. Expected to close in a couple of weeks. And we went out there with Lauren and did a perk test. The existing system failed the Title V inspection by somebody else. And we applied with the Conservation Commission to install the septic tank inside the 100-foot buffer in order to maintain a short run between the tank and the house. And they approved that last night. Given that there really isn't any place we can install the leaching facility outside the 100-foot buffer, we're requesting a variance to reduce the setback from the wetland resource area to less than 150 feet. Other than that, it meets all the rest of the Duxbury supplemental rules and regs in Title V. So that's the one variance we're looking for. And that's it.
And this is the most conforming that you can make it with what you have to work with. Would that be an accurate statement?
Yes, definitely. We're unable to get really any further away without totally annihilating the parcel. Removing the entire driveway and cutting another half a dozen trees, we can get a little bit further, but really isn't going to provide much in the way of additional groundwater protection, in my opinion.
Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, if not, I'll make a motion. So I move to grant a variance to Duxbury Supplemental Rules and Regulations 110-1A, allowing the proposed soil absorption system to be located 108.7 feet from a wetland versus required 150 feet.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good. Let the record show we're unanimous. Comments and findings. This is an existing 4-bedroom dwelling with no proposed increase in flow. The property is not located in a zone 2 wellhead protection area. The system is not designed for a garbage grinder in the property. It was approved at the Conservation Commission meeting last night. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
All right, on to item number 3, which is 400 Church Street.
Good evening, everyone. Dylan Brady with Grady Consulting, here to represent Russell Atkin, the applicant and owner. I'm just going to share my screen so you guys can see the plan. Can everyone see that all right?
Yes.
Right. So the Russell Atkin, the applicant and owner, is proposing to install this pool and patio area here. And that's where the existing septic system is. The existing septic system it consists of a 1,000-gallon septic tank pumping to a leaching field here. We are proposing just to move the leaching field, obviously to avoid the pool area. When we did the perk test, we found higher groundwater than what was found back in, I think it was 85 when they did the initial perk test. So we actually found the groundwater a little bit higher. So therefore, we're going to install a 1,500-gallon septic tank into a 1,500-gallon pump chamber that pumps up to the leaching field that is 30 feet long by 20 feet wide. We are asking for a variance for groundwater separation from 5 feet to 4 feet. We believe we can get this variance because the proposed system is going to be higher than the existing system, considering the existing system is gravity and sits much lower in the groundwater table. We are also asking for a variance for the separation from a wetland from 150 feet to 123.5 feet. We also believe we can get this variance approved because we're moving the septic system actually further away from the wetland. The existing one is closer. And with that, I'll open up to the board with any questions you may have.
Sorry, could you show me where the existing field is, leaching field?
Yes, you can see my cursor here. I'll zoom in. The existing one is right here, this dashed line. So half of it is where the proposed pool is going.
Oh, okay. Yep, I see it now. Thanks.
Yeah, and this is the existing 1,000-gallon there.
And did you say you already went through Conservation Commission or?
Oh, yep. Thank you. I did forget to mention that. We already have approval from the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Where does the water come in? The water line? Public water?
The water line comes through from the front here. It is hard to see on this plan. I can bring up the Title V that was done in 2010, if you need to see it, but it comes in the front here, so it's the system won't be affected by it.
Other questions or thoughts? Mike, are you okay with this?
Yeah, it looks okay to me. Assume that existing shed, is that gonna stay where it is, or, well,
Yep, I believe the plan now is to remove that ramp at time of construction. I'm not sure if they're going to move the shed at the time of construction and replace it. But I believe the shed is staying in place. Returning it to its existing spot.
We ready to vote? We okay? All right. We'll make a motion to grant the Title V local upgrade approval to 310 CMR 15.4051H to reduce the required 5 feet separation in soils with a recorded percolation rate of 2 minutes or less per inch between the bottom and the SAS and the high groundwater elevation. The SAS will be constructed 4 feet above groundwater. Do I have a second?
second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Good. Record note that everyone voted in the affirmative. Second, we move to grant a variance to the Duxbury Supplementary Rules and Regulations 1.111B, allowing the proposed SAS to be constructed 5 feet above maximum groundwater versus the required 6 feet in soil where the perk rate is 2 minutes or less per inch. Have a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Let the record show that everyone's in the affirmative. Lastly, move to grant a variance to Duxbury Supplemental Rules and Regulations 1.101A, allowing the proposed soil absorption system to be located 123.5 feet from the wetlands versus the required 150 feet. A second.
Second.
Great. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Let the record show that everyone voted in the affirmative. Comments and findings. This is an existing 4-bedroom dwelling with no proposed increase in flow. The property does fall within a zone 2. The system is not designed for a garbage grinder. The existing system was installed in 1985, and they are proposing to replace all septic components with the Title V required components. And approved by conservation also. Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, moving on to our fourth item, which is a continued discussion with the Duxbury Safe Water Committee regarding concerns to the town public water supply. I think we have Mrs. Chin.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
I've been having trouble with my computer tonight.
Can I just tell you one thing? You're echoing, so if you can either shut your computer. Okay, there you go. Oh, now you get both of them off. Maybe stay on your phone.
Is this better? Or is it still an echo?
You're still echoing.
Okay, let me see what I can do. this better? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
You got it.
Sorry, all of a sudden, I had trouble with my computer tonight. We have the report in from HRP, which was doing the forensic analysis. It's 700 pages, and I will save you the 700 pages and give you a quick synopsis. The fingerprinting was completed and it has characterized between a snapshot of PFSA in groundwater at two sources, the municipal landfill, which is our current recycling center, which has the landfill that's been capped and has the cell on it, and then the McNeil dump. The evaluation showed that the municipal landfill that is contaminating the Depot Street well, and that the McNeil dump is the main source of, and not the McNeil dump. And when we get to the Partridge Road well, it's significantly impacted by one or more sources, and the fingerprint was not closely matched with either sources because of a high elevated percentage of PFOS, PFOS. And that's which is dominant in the McNeil dump, but it suggests that there's a connection. There's more contributing to the Partridge well, as in conjunction with the McNeil dump. The source is probably from when the 40 or 50 years ago, there was a furniture stripping facility on South Station Street where the Duxbury Clipper used to be have their offices. There was a furniture stripping facility with big vats of chemicals. And behind that building is a stream. And so there's still, the fingerprinting results are concentrated to observe at other municipal wells were associated with what would be considered background PFAS and Duxbury groundwater. Those levels are probably associated with septic system discharges, and there's no non-point source of PFAS that represent a threat to the public health. The report has been forwarded on to Environmental Partners, which is doing work for the Select Board. They are going to present the findings and make some recommendations. And the Water Advisory Board and the PFAS Working Group for the town have developed as of this week. Melissa, have you been on those meetings?
Yep.
Okay, so you know this, that they're keying in on the Depot Street and Tremont Street wells, and they're going for an annual town meeting for design money at about $1 million, but the project is going to work out to about 40.6 million once they do the work on it. I think they intend to connect those two wells so that they can work with one filtering system. But and the Partridge Street well is going to be reevaluated. So that's essentially the report from the HRP group. And it was very interesting that it's the municipal landfill that was capped in the 1970s and has the cell towers, God, those names I lose my focus on them, but they I don't know how they're going to work it out. They've got the whole area covered. So it's going to be something that the town has to deal with. And I would assume there will be something on the annual town meeting, but this is the first report that's come out from the forensic fingerprinting to tell us which forms of PFAS are coming from which sites that we are known are contaminated, and then what wells they're contaminating.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I think.
This question, sorry.
You think so?
it's,
Yeah. What do town meeting wants $40 million?
So I can just ask the question. Yeah, thanks for summarizing that. Save us 700 pages of reading. But
Yes.
so does that mean that so there are multiple sources? It sounds like it's not just the one dump, apparently.
Well, PFAS has lots of cousins, and they were trying to get the exact PFAS that was contaminating the individual wells by going through all of the old records that the town has from their previous testing sites on ground wells that they're testing. But they know what's in the water at our water wells, and so they wanted to know the source. And the source appears to be our old landfill, which was in operation from around the 1900s and closed in 1977 when they built the first recycling center at the dump.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming it was capped according to DEP at that point. I don't know whether there was or was not, but it was capped.
Okay, thank you.
So, after, let's say this gets approved and so forth, how long does this mitigate if, we move forward with how you explain the two wells would be joined together for the filtration system? How long does a project like that take? Did they give you any
I
sense?
think they were saying a year and a half to 2 years.
Okay.
Because they have to go through design first. That's
Yes.
going to take about 4 months. They have to come back then with a plan. And the plan is going to be broken down, but they're going to be looking then for a whole lot of money. And that has to be approved and then go out to bid. So it's a lengthy,
Yeah.
per,
No, I
per-
know this
per-
isn't,
you know, yeah. And in the meantime, Depot Street is shut down. And they will
Yeah.
continue to test the Terminal Street has 2 wells. But they're looking for the most cost-effective way to connect the wells so that they can do one filtration system and not multiple ones. They're also going for a generator for that project. So that they will be able to work when we don't have any power. So, but believe that's going in a capital budget request for the generator.
So compliance for the water, for PFAS in drinking water has to happen by April of 2029. So that is kind of the looming deadline for any well we want to use that has PFAS contamination above the required
MCL.
limit. Yeah. And it may, there's the challenges going forward are going to be that there's so many communities looking to do this work that there's a limit on the number of engineers available, on the equipment available, the rate at which the state can approve design. So there are going to be a lot of potentially, limiting steps or places where things can get slowed down. So that's why we want to move forward now so that there is this long runway to get this done in time.
Yeah, we
Um,
have to take the steps, and the town is not going to be happy to hear this money because the water rates will go up. This will go against not our general operating budget, it will go against the water rates.
So my question is, I know that there were some funds that we could apply for. Does any of them, have we applied, and would they cover some of this work that we need to do?
I think Plymouth County was going to provide funds for Partridge Street, but I've heard back and forth. First, Partridge Street was on for having a filtration system, and then it was off. It's one of the oldest wells, and it's also one of our smallest wells. And so I don't think it's a priority, but because it's the first one that tested over the maximum MCL when it was the higher number, it got shut down immediately. And because they still have questions on whether the furniture stripping activity on South Station Street did such a heinous job of dumping their chemicals that it may or may not be something that they can actually filter successfully.
Oh,
I think that's a
okay.
concern.
Uh-huh.
That stripping facility went on for a number of decades, and they had vats bigger than bathtubs full of chemicals that they would dump furniture in and take the paint off and pull it out and then wipe it down. I used it in the 1970s
My.
for an old bureau.
So is the option out there to abandon both of these wells, or you would need
That's a good
capacity?
You can't, you can abandon the Partridge well, but you need the capacity to have Depot, and because Depot is close enough geographically, the hook connect to the Tremont Street wells, it would be to our benefit to have those wells together and done. Partridge is kind of a over to one side of the off South Station Street. And as I said, it's one of our oldest wells, and it's one of the most smallest as far as production. Tremont is one of our high yield wells. And I believe there are two side by side. And it's one of the newer wells. Depot Street is older. It's been shut down for 5 years because it's got manganese, and they will treat for manganese at the same time.
So I think, what our recommendation was for the advisory group was to leave Partridge, not use it for production for the system at this point, and not address treatment there right now because of what Becky said, that it's a smaller contributor, and we want to focus on treating at Tremont and Depot Street so that you can get a lot of more bang for your buck, so to speak. You get more production out of that treatment location. But
Melissa, is there a new well site they're looking at Tea Kettle Lane?
yes, but they did some initial, we were looking at a new source because we do have an inactive well off of Tea Kettle Lane. Unfortunately, the water we tested and it's above the PFAS limit, so we would have to treat there. And so putting that well online and then installing treatment, that's a 10-year project. And
so it would have to be a rehab on the well.
Maybe you might have to, it depends on, and what kind of, it suggested a well field instead of just one well at that location. So it would be a lot of work, and doesn't seem like that would be the best way to go. But to Mike's point about, what do you do if these are still, you can't use these wells when we reach 2029, you either face having violations and probably financial consequences from violations, or you have to not use those sources that are contaminated. So those are the options. So yeah, we do have, it'd be Tremont and Depot Street, and then probably need to address Lakeshore and Damon as well for treatment. So.
A lot of work before 2029.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, think
kind of think about it, if 2029 seems like it's not a realistic option to meet that criterion, to have all the work done by then, to get these wells working again and contributing the capacity to the system, like if we gave up those wells permanently, like what percentage of the system is it, I guess, and would a reduction in like watering lawns make the difference?
That's going
or
to take
something
place
like that?
anyway.
So
that's done.
Yeah. That was our first recommendation because, and it's too bad Bruce is here because I know this is one of his campaign items. So we can't really keep those wells offline. First of all, you never want to really abandon your wells unless you really have to. The state kind of frowns on, on that. but we have two parts of our system. We have a high pressure zone and a low pressure zone, and the high pressure zone is kind of limited by what can feed into that, and we do need those wells online, particularly in the summer, but also for fire flow, for addressing fires that could come up. So we do need to address this. In other words, our first recommendation from the advisory group was to have the town address conservation, because unlike our neighbors, oops, during the summer we go way above the guidance, the state guidance for per capita use in water. I think we essentially double
Yes.
per the 65 gallons per person. So we are, and a lot of that is since it's the summer, you can guess it's outdoor use, irrigation, maybe pools, etc. So to put it starkly, if we are spending all this money to install PFAS treatment, we are installing treatment to irrigate people's lawns, in part. We are not using all of that water that we are treating for lots and lots of money to drink it. So that was a big recommendation, was that we need an actionable conservation plan that we can take on.
Lauren, I know at one point you maybe had like an intern in the office looking at grass options that require less watering. Did anything come of that seemed like a worthwhile option to pursue for homeowners, or? Oh,
I know they have options out there. Actually, the intern reached out yesterday, and he's back for a couple weeks during Christmas. So, but speaking of irrigation and water usage, that's coming down the pipeline with the select board met on Monday to discuss some, I think you all know probably, the regulations on new construction all have to go through irrigation wells and permitting through the Board of Health. So, and I know they're really gonna hit hard with conservation of water usage, which may be in the form of, I think they're gonna do a fee study, and water rates might go up. So, but in terms of what you were asking, we didn't really find too many options for that, but we only had the intern for a few days. So it can be something that I can ask him to look into further when he's here in a couple weeks.
As we think about conservation, I think, Mike, you make a good point, is strategies for the residents. Because when people say, conserve water, people get nervous about those things. So hand in hand strategies, so people will be less nervous.
yeah, and there's plenty of places that you drive by and it's pouring out and the sprinklers are going, so there must be some sort of sensor. I don't know.
They do have sensors, you're right.
They do.
So
It's
that
true,
was
they do.
that was discussed, and I think they are adding that language back into these regulations. They'll be discussing, the select board will be discussing this further, I believe December 16th. But when I see that agenda come out, I'll let you know in case you want to tune in or come to the meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments or thoughts about the Becky's report? Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing all that with us.
You're
We
very
appreciate
welcome. Anytime. Have a good holiday.
it. Enjoy your holiday. Thank
too,
you.
Becky.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, health agent updates.
All right, I'm going to start with our public health nurse, Kathy Carney, the stats from October 17th through today, December 4th. COVID-19 under the age of 5, 2 cases. Over the age of 5, but under the age of 18, 0. And over the age of 18, there are 16 cases for a total of 18. For Lyme, 1 probable and 4 suspect for a total of 5. Campylobacteriosis, there were 2 cases, and anaplasmosis for 1. In terms of updates, just a few items. A few months ago, we had conflicting Title V reports for 25 through 28 Trout Farm, and the board allowed Duxbury Construction to make the repairs, with the caveat that we would go out and inspect in a few months to see how the system's operating. So I was out there on Monday with Duxbury Construction, and all 3 pits that are there are receiving flow. They did add a couple of levelers on the septic pits, and on November 8th, they had effluent levels in the first pit of 4 feet, the second pit 6 inches, I think that means 4 inches, and then the third pit 2.5 feet of liquid. And then December 3rd, when I met out there, the levels had not changed. So all 3 pits are receiving flow and they haven't had any issues. So I wanted to update you on that. Then we also heard that MAHB, their annual certificate program that they offer to members of boards of health. It's the 1-day Saturday training. That's going to be in Plymouth this year in the spring of 2025. At the 1620 Hotel, which I thought was great. I mean, it was in Taunton previously, but Plymouth just makes it easier. It's closer to home. And once we find out more information about that, we'll send that over to the board members, because our shared services grant will pay for that. So the town doesn't have to pay for that. So, and that was the same instance for Tracy and I. We were at MHOA, the Mass Association of Health Boards. And that was in Springfield. The grant paid for that they paid for the hotel, they paid for the registration fee. So that was a great savings as well. And it was a great event. They had over 600 people this year.
Good.
And yeah, we had a great time, and they had extra tracks of subjects, so it was really interesting to have some new material to learn. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, also through our shared services grant group, our epidemiologist is currently working on a Duxbury health profile. And that's a town profile. It's a comprehensive summarization of key public health findings that she draws from Maven and the Mass Health Data Tool. So that has various categories, and it shows a comparison of the town's data to the collaborative, which are the other 5 towns. And she should have that presentation probably at our next meeting. And I think that's interesting. Some of the work that she's been doing, I think you'll find is interesting as well. And that's really all I have for updates.
That's great. So her work, it will inform maybe the direction we take on health initiatives.
Definitely. Yeah. And I will reach out to Kathy Carney, because I think she'll be interested as well to attend that meeting with the EPI. So
Great.
I'm hoping that'll be the January meeting, but I'll let you know. Or Tracy will.
It seems like some of these shared services from the grant seem to be more in motion now, right?
Yes and no. We are having a hard time keeping a public health nurse, which, it's unfortunate for some of the smaller towns that don't currently have their own. I mean, we're very fortunate to have Kathy. But that was the one the one position that we've had trouble keeping.
Mhm.
The epidemiologist is great, and she's full-time, and then we do have a food inspector that did help out a little bit when Tracy was out, just to keep me
Mhm.
on track. And those two people are fantastic. So
Good.
yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's been a huge savings for us. They supplied me with a complete backpack full of equipment to conduct my food inspections. So yeah,
Great.
it's helped out quite a bit.
Good. I think it just from recollection, it's taken a while to put things in motion. I know you have to hire people and approve and go to meetings
That's
and vote for
definitely
things.
been,
Yeah.
yes, it's been a struggle. And then we're told we can order things using the grant money, and then the state comes back and says, no, you can't. So that's been a little bit of a back and forth, but we have
Yeah.
a great representative through the state. So,
Good.
and we have a wonderful coordinator. I should mention Linda. She's fantastic at just attending meetings and, helping us facilitate hires and all the background work that takes. So,
Mhm.
but it's been interesting. I know we're funded for at least another 2.5 years. So I'm not sure what happens after that eventually. Someday I'm sure the money will run out, but while we have it, we're gonna try to utilize it the best we can.
Yeah, put it to very good use. So thank you. That was a great update.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any questions for Lauren? Okay, well, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. The
Yeah,
next,
sorry to interrupt. I have one more thing. I'm sorry.
oh,
It
okay.
wasn't quick, but I just
Don't
wanted
adjourn the
to-
meeting.
Yeah, it'll be quick. I just wanted to see if we could put something on the agenda for the January meeting. I think it'd be helpful if we could get an update on the fluoride from the water department, and we're supposed to get those periodic updates. So I think that'd be helpful. I was just looking at the report but it's for 2023. The fluoride level was 0.98, and it was 4 is the level of concern. But I think it'd be helpful in January if we can get an update on just like the status and kind of what the levels are and that sort of thing.
Sure, absolutely.
That's a great point. Great. Now, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So
Aye.
moved.